Hello and welcome to my channel. So today we are just going to learn how to create an OTP box with React. Something this simple that we can just input an OTP, it moves to the next one, moves to the next one, and then that's it. But we are just going to make ours a little bit advanced. We put a button here so that when we click that button we can collect our OTP and compare it with what we have in the database. So that's what we are going to create quickly. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I have created the React application here that we are just going to continue using. If you are not familiar with how to create a React application, you can hit me up in the comment section and I'll be sure to create a video for you. All right. So the first thing we want to do, I want you to have in mind that we are going to make this as dynamic as possible, so that if later if later along the line we decide that our OTP is no longer 4 fields, we want to add 6 fields, we just change one thing. We don't have to go and manually hard code input tags and put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 input tags on our code. We only put one input tag and it does the magic. So we're going to start by declaring our states. Let's say I call my OTP set OTP state is equal to use state, and when I do that, it's going to automatically import use state hook from the React library. So I say my state should be new array and fill this array up with empty strings. Alright, so I want my OTP field to be 4 fields. So for that, I'm going to say, okay, let this array have 4 elements, but let the 4 of them be empty strings. So the next thing we are going to do is to just display these input tags on our outputs quickly. Then we start writing the functions for them. So what I want to do right here is to create a div that I will call my OTP area. Okay. And then here, I'm going to map through my OTP. So when I map through my OTP, I'm going to have 2 values. The first one is the data, the second one is the index. I'll just pass I for index. Okay. Then inside of this, I will return just one input tag, and then observe I have 1, 2, 3, 4 input tags. So if I change this input tag to 6, automatically it's going to add 2 more to make it 6. But for now, let's proceed with 4, and then we can change it later on. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm just going to copy a style I have already written so that this video will not be too long. You can take time to look at the style later, and then the moment I do this, right, we get this style. Okay, so this is what we want. But now when I press 2, I want it to move into the next box by itself and focus here. Also, I don't want to have alphabets here. I only want to take numbers, right? Okay, so let's go right into it. So I'll come here and write a function from a change. This function is going to take 2 parameters, e, which is the element on which we are going to call the function, and I, which is the index. Let me call this I index, and let's call this e element. Let's just call it element. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is to disable the use of non-numbers. So if I say if e.target.value is not a number, if e.target.value is not a number, return false. Okay, mean just stop running this function. There's no point going down with it. Okay, I'm using e and I wrote element here. Now let me just use e because I'm more familiar with that. Okay, so if it's not a number that's passed in, don't proceed, just reject it and stop there, right? But if it's a number, then we want to set that number to our OTP, right? And for us to set it to the OTP, we have to spread this OTP and map through it so that we can have access to the individual indexes, right? So I spread the OTP using the spread operator, and immediately I map through it. And again, once I map, I have access to the element, or let's say to the data. So I'm going to call this data, and I also have access to the index of that data. Okay, so here I want to match if this index right? The index of this data is equal to the index that we are going to pass through the params, right? If it's equal to it, then e.target.value should be equal to this data right here. Okay, so when we do that, what we are simply saying is if what we passed in is not a number, we reject it. If it's a number, and we check if that operation is happening at an index that matches the index of our OTP, then we replace the empty string in that particular array with the whatever number has been passed to it. Okay, so here we come here. You know, we are mapping through that same OTP here, and we have this data. So we give our input tag a value of data just this way, and then we bind a change event to it. I'm going to format this so that I can keep writing. So on change, we pass e, of course, and say let's handle change. Okay, so we are passing in two parameters. You see, this is telling me that okay, I need to pass e and I need to pass index. So my e will be this e that I passed in here, and the index will be this I that is on code. I pass this in just this way. Okay, so by doing that, if I come here and I type R, it can no longer show. I type K, it's not coming up. L is not coming up. But if I type 3, it comes up because it's a number, right? If I go here and I type 5, it will come up, right? Okay, so one other thing we need to do is OTP fields only take one element per box. So I'll come into my input tag here and I'll say max length is 1. So I only want one element per box. So that way I can no longer type multiple things in each of these boxes. See? All right, good. So the next thing for me to do is when you have one element in this box, don't wait for me, move to the next one. All right, okay, so I'll come into this change function and write that logic. So I say if a.target.value, meaning when there's something inside of this input tag, right? And we know that there can't be two things, there can only be one thing. So I'm saying when there's something inside of this tag, focus on the next element. Next sibling dot focus, just like this. Okay, so by doing that, it means if I let me reload this real quick. If I come here and I type 4, it will focus on the next input tag, right? If I type something else, it will focus there. But notice this code is going to break because when I get here, there's no next element to focus on. So if I type something, it will break the code. It will say the next element is null, so you can focus on it. That means we have to adjust our logic here and see if e.target.value, meaning if the present input has a value and there is a next input, and e.target.next sibling, meaning if there is a next input, that's when you focus, else there's no point focusing. So I can now do this, see, and even if I get there, my code no longer breaks, right? Okay, good. So here in my CSS, I can simply add an additional logic to say, okay, so by the time I do that, see, I'm going to get this. So if I write this, it's going to focus there, focus there, focus there, and there, right? So if you want to change this from black to red, you know, you can do all sorts of CSS manipulations with this. So if I refresh this to be empty, right, this is it, and it guides the user on where to focus on. So yeah, that's about it. So let me just show you something simple. If I come here and I bind a button, let's say I put a button right here and I say submit, right? This is a submit button. Okay, so I don't have time to, I don't really want to spend time designing this button, but let me just add a few things. Let's say I give it a padding and okay, great. You know what? Let me just put this in a center tag so that it just goes to the middle, right? crazy. This is not the meaning. Anyway, we're going to leave that button right there. So what we'll do now is when I click on this button, I want to see my OTP. Okay, so I put a click event on this button and I say when this button is clicked, just alert the OTP. So I do my OTP. Remember, this OTP is an array of what? Is an array of strings. So when I call .join on it with an empty string this way, it's going to join everything together for me. So when I come here and I do 4, 5, this and that, and I click on submit, see, it's going to join everything for me, and I have this number. So with this, you can write your logic and check if this number matches what you have on your database and all of that. So that'll be all. One other thing I would love to show you, but I don't want this video to be too long, is what happens when you get to the end of this and you delete. When you delete and it clears this, it has to focus on this so that you can also delete and focus on this. So if you are interested in that, just leave a comment in the comment section and I will make a video just for that. But for now, I'd like to bring this video to an end. Thank you very much. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe to my channel and help us grow. Thank you.